Thanks, Dr. Chitra Ramurthy. I dare not call her Chitra at this stage. What I'm going to share with all of you is probably a completely different version of what is expected. But nevertheless, since very few people talk along these lines, I thought I would go and give this presentation. When we look at the very meanings of these two words, tangible and intangible, tangible is what is capable of being handled or grasped. That is appreciable, palpable, or perceptible, etc., etc. Whereas intangible is invisible, untouchable. You cannot put a value on this. Coming to our own area, our problem is a major public health problem, global blindness. From the recent data published by the Vision Loss Expert Group in the year 2020, we now have nearly more than 1 billion people affected with significant degree of vision impairment. To that, of course, if we add other numbers of people who really require attention to their eye problems, the number comes to more than 2 million, 2.5 million or so. And 55% women and girls, clearly showing continuing gender disparity around the world. A significant proportion in the pediatric age group. 90% can easily benefit from the existing technologies and knowledge. All this together causes the global economy a loss of nearly over $400 billion. If you look at the progress of what has happened over the past nearly 3 decades.
The slides are not moving.
Slides are not moving?
Yeah.
It's moving here for me.
Is it?
Okay, now?
No, it's not moving.
I don't know.
How is it for you, Srinivas?
No, madam, it's not moving. GN sir, I think you have to stop the screen share and again,
share it maybe.
Share it again and do it full screen.
Yes, now it's fine.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Go back actually.
You could carry on from where you were, sir.
Okay, if you look at the crude prevalence, as you can clearly see in the global map, it's very indicative that we continue to be the leaders in the highest degree of prevalence of blindness in the world. What the hell is that? Srinivas Leda.
Yes, it is. The slide is changing.
So according to The Economist, so long as half the world goes without essential treatment, the fruits of centuries of medical science will go wasted. So what we need is a model of universal basic health care in the true sense of that word. And when we come to India, we have nearly 9 million people blind, another nearly 50 million with moderate or severe visual impairment, with a total number of over 56 million. And these are the predominant causes that are contributing to this problem in India. So what have been the tangible things that we can talk about in dealing with this problem? We have improved significantly in the area of cataract care. We know perform nearly 70% of all cataract surgeries in the world annually. We have more and better approaches in dealing with the uncorrected refractive error problem. We have also greater availability of subspecialization, improved eye banking, and other areas that are within the realm of tertiary care that contribute significantly to sight restoration or preservation of sight to millions of people. And in the area of human resource development through our education programs in the country, we have achieved a significant increase in the number of programs which have also improved in quality, and more platforms of online education are becoming available from our country. This contributed significantly to
All be on mute.
our requirements of human resources, and also helped those individuals who went through these programs with their career advancement or creating careers for many young individuals. In terms of infrastructure, India is on the leading edge of creating innovative models of eye care delivery, covering every aspect, every level of eye care, from the primary care in the remote rural to tertiary care across the country. We have some outstanding examples of such models of eye care delivery across the country. India also has been very successful in leveraging technology, medical information technology, and mobile that have enabled us to enhance our quality of care and also greater coverage through greater reach. And we are the leader in the creation of models of financial sustainability through a variety of approaches that are very much in demand in the rest of the world. So through all this, the tangible thing that happened in India, I believe, that we have become a leader in eye care among the developing countries that has significantly enhanced our stature as a leading eye care country in the world. And in each of these areas, whether it is clinical care or in advocacy, policy, and planning, working with both national and international organizations, India has set several examples and contributed immensely in every one of these areas that you see in this slide. So finally, when we look at the global situation now, the prevalence of visual impairment is decreasing, but the indicated increase in numbers is because of the increase in world population, as well as the fact that the population is aging. So there is a big demographic shift. Eye care, unfortunately, is still not a very integral part in many countries of health policies. There seems to be an end towards the infectious problems of blindness. There is, however, a significant increase in chronic eye diseases that requires significant development of systems approach and campaign approach. And we also have to continue to evolve our technologies to tackle these problems. One area that we have to work on if we want to achieve universal coverage is rehabilitation services. From this, if we go into intangibles, we have to look at the impact on economic productivity of blindness and vision impairment at the individual level, at the community level, and at the national level. And indirectly, all this leads to alleviation of poverty. Blindness and vision impairment also has a bearing on the mental health and well-being of individuals. It's one of the major causes for road traffic accidents and mortality related to that. And it's been clearly shown again and again that falls, particularly in the elderly, are mostly related to vision impairment. In youngsters, it becomes an issue of educational attainment, the employment and better living standards, to reduce inequality, and to enhance benefits to women and girls. In the year 2015, the United Nations has come up with the Blueprint of Sustainable Development Goals, a better and more sustainable future for all the people in the world by the year 2020. Among these 17 goals, in 8 of them, eye health has an important role to play. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 8, 10, and 11 of these 17 sustainable development goals have and will be influenced by the quality of eye health we have in these countries. If India were to achieve these goals by the year 2030, as was planned, eye health should become an important part and contribute to it. This is a big intangible goal that we could have. So if you look at it, there are direct effects on the eye health, there are indirect effects or intermediate effects, and ultimately there are outcomes because of the adoption of proper strategies to deliver eye health throughout the country. And no time was all these more pronounced than during the past 2 years of our pandemic. And the economic loss from blindness and vision impairment is significant. Significant reduction in employment, global annual productivity losses, and this is much more in East Asian countries than elsewhere in the world. The World Report on Vision that was published by the World Health Organization last year talked of an integrated people-centered eye care. And that means you are talking about universal eye health that encompasses comprehensive care, that is prevention, treatment, and rehabilitation. Commitment to quality, that is high quality care to all people, closer to the doorstep of the people as much as possible, with continuity of care, not through high camp approach in the future, and community participation in all these efforts. Let me leave you with I got this a few years ago. This really touched me. This is a thing that we see again and again. Most parts of our country on a daily basis. This may have implications to the availability, accessibility,
Not able to see the picture.
many parts of our country.
You're not able to see the video.
End of the sorry to interrupt, we are not able to see the video, sir.
Oh, doctor.
मेरे हाथों के गजरों की मंजिल
Dr. Gullapalli?
Can we work on a tangible benefit of avoiding such perilous journey to any son of a mother anywhere in the country as responsible, educated citizens of the country? Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Gulapalli Rao. But it's just that we missed watching that wonderful video, but we heard a great music.
Oh, you didn't get the music?
Yeah, but I
Sorry
had
about
watched this video before, so I actually have a very basic question. Your talk was just mind-blowing, amazing. You know, we know that you have multiple centers in tertiary and middle, and the very primary of your centers, you may not be having a doctor in those centers. You may be having a some kind of an optometry training.
Right.
So sometimes they could miss out some of these eye condition and there's need to be seriously evaluated. Could those have a medical legal implication? Because, you know, when we start growing, we try to grow so expansively that there could be these issues. How do you prevent that from occurring?
So we are very clear, Chitra, that primary care is intended to be served by mid-level ophthalmic personnel. Knowing full well in our rural and tribal areas, no ophthalmologist will ever go and practice. No optometrist with a 4-year degree will go there and work. So that's how we innovated this model of recruiting the rural youth who completed just class 12 or intermediate, train them to be well-qualified technicians. And the key is the rigor of training, how we train these technicians. Our technician can match the best of optometrists in the way they can examine the patient. These vision centers in the tribal and remote rural areas are fully equipped, and now they are technology connected with teleophthalmology. So the main purpose is, since more than 50% of the vision impairment is uncorrected refractive error, these technicians can provide correction for them. And then the second purpose is recognizing potentially blinding diseases. They can recognize them. They may not make an accurate diagnosis, and then refer them to the next level. And all these centers are within a 50-kilometer radius of a secondary center of ours, where there are ophthalmologists. So they take care of the next level care. And they also get an immediate opinion if they want through the teleconsultation from the tertiary centers.
Dr. Avinash, are you there with us?
Yeah, I'm there, Dr. Amurthy.
Yeah. So what would you have to say about the kind of leadership which you have seen in your institute and which could be given away as a message to our leadership desiring audience? It's a very...
Right, and when you talk about the leadership, I would just like to focus on what Dr. Rao's leadership is all about, because it's something which we have seen and we have felt and we have grown with it. And so there are many people who have disappeared into the oblivion, and few people have snatched a couple of great attributes which could be called legendary from oblivion. And we all know that attributes of Dr. Rao are legendary. And actually, thanks for an opportunity where I can speak something about my chairman. Actually, there are very few people who get this opportunity to talk about it in front of him. But having said that, I can talk about many multiple things, but there are 4 which I can very vividly recollect. And these are all like very short stories. One is a story of sacrifice. So when he had to make the decision of moving from America back to India, that's a story of sacrifice. That's a sacrifice where he walked at the helm of his academic life and very comfortable living there and coming back to his roots. That's the story of sacrifice. And the second is the story of being an innovator. We just heard that he spoke about innovations and how it made the difference in rural eye health care. And his personal favorite about his quote from Robert Frost, taking the path least taken, and that made all the difference. And that's the short story of being in the innovator. I spoke about the story of sacrifice, I spoke about the story of innovator, and then the story of excellence also touched me a lot. So it's not only preaching, it's like a role model for us. When we work with him, we see that when he focuses on something, he immerses his head, heart, and hands into that. And that's what pivots an excellence in whatever he does. And the fourth is story of compassion. And one of his statements, which really stays back with me many a times, and all the time rather, would be, poor should not be treated poorly. So these are, I would say, very touching stories, which, when we look at people like Dr. Rao, who we easily adopt as a role model, and these are the ways in which their role modeling has influenced me in whatever I am today. To just recollect those four important story points, I would like to say the story of sacrifice, story of being an innovator, the story of excellence, and story of extreme compassion.
Thank you, Avinash sir, for that wonderful comments. Sir, question to GN Rao sir, please. Sir, we have heard about the LVP. Who doesn't know about LVP? We have heard about your iSmart technology also, which you are using it, where Anthony Bipin Das gave a good demonstration. You're not just into the eye care, but also more into innovations and also into the technology. So when you talk about the universal healthcare, because I studied in Canada, my fellowship, where after 50 years, you are the property of the government. The government takes care of everything. Whether you take Health Canada or the Obamacare or the US healthcare system or the NHS system in Europe, they all are governmental based, and that's how they have been able to grow up so high. But when I saw about the LVP model, you have probably more than 200 vision centers and nearing, I think, 300, if I'm not wrong, right? So it has become a kind like it automatically feeds patients to their tertiary care centers. So do you think that we have to join hands with the government, or is the government has to really necessary? This is a 1.3 billion populated country. Individually alone, how can we achieve in these the universal health coverage, especially when it comes to the eye care? Or can we do a sustainable, like how you have developed the vision care centers where avoidable blindness free villages, which you people are declaring? And is that the way to go, or join hands with the government? What is the actual way to go, sir?
A very good question. We have to remember LV Prasad Eye Institute, what we have done even with our 240 locations is only a model. And innovation happens in social or private sector. And scaling up is the responsibility of governments. And if we have to get the universal health coverage for the entire population of our 1.4 billion nearly, government has to do it. There's no way out. No non-governmental organization or a coalition of organizations can achieve that. So we are working with the 3 state governments where we are located, encouraging them. And in all the 3 states, we have actively become their technical or training partner to not only influence through advocacy, the examples being the Kanti Velugu programs in Andhra Pradesh and Telangana in the last 2 years, where they screened the entire populations, spending significant amounts of money. The first time such large volumes of money were spent in a year's time, 150, 200 crores in one shot. And we were happy that we could play an important role in that. And we also work with them in training, in education, their residents, their professors, etc., etc. So that we have to continue to do, work alongside the government, encourage them, play a role in advocacy, both at the national and international level. That's an important responsibility of our profession, advocacy. If we neglect it only for our peril.
Dr. Ramurthy, do you have anything to say to summarize this before we go on to Dr. Debashish?
Rather than saying something, I have just a couple of quick queries to Dr. G.N. Rao since he's here. Great talk, Dr. Rao. A couple of things just concerned me was that, we have been having this talk about this Vision 2020 document for a long time. And where are we situated right now? I mean, have we gone around achieving at least part of what we set around to do it in the year 2010? And second thing is that in spite of all the advances that we have made, whether it is institutional, governmental, or individual, most of our practice still seems to be cataract-centric. With the aging of the population, RMD, glaucoma, diabetic retinopathy, all these things, I do not think are still getting the kind of attention that they deserve. Any thoughts from you as to how we can change this scenario?
Yeah, the first question, Vision 2020 has helped in making the progress, has helped in putting the eye care and prevention of blindness on the radar screens of policymakers around the world through very, very significant lobbying and advocacy efforts. For the first time, the World Health Organization has put prevention of blindness and eye care as one of the healthcare priorities within its mandate. And that is the achievement. And then few countries have moved significantly in advance, and many countries have now begun to actually give a line item in the healthcare budget for eye care on their national budgets, which never happened in the past. Those were the positives, but we still have a long way to go. The successes are trachoma, onchocerciasis, vitamin A deficiency, significant advance in the area of cataract surgery. We have only created awareness and some models for uncorrected refractive error. We have a long way to go. Diabetic retinopathy, glaucoma, etc. We only are at the beginning of developing a framework for their care. They are still within the realm of tertiary care. Until we cascade it down to secondary and primary and clearly divide the care, we will not be able to handle those. As for the second question, I think we have to continue to apply our advocacy efforts with policymakers to get the kind of prioritization that we truly deserve for eye care. If you look at it, I give you an example. When I was the Secretary General and later the President of IAPP, that was the time when we were looking for the World Health Assembly resolution in the WHO. And we made phone calls to all the 193 country members of WHO, to one of our friends, either a leading ophthalmologist or optometrist, and asked them, is the president or the health minister or the prime minister your patient? It turned out most of our friends are very close to these leaders. And if they could use that to the advantage, to our advantage, that connection, then I think eye care will get its due prioritization. Most of us are connected to these powerful policymakers, but we should use it, leverage that. And then I think we can